Welcome to my channel. I'm Elizabeth Liz Machette, and today we're doing the full moon forecast for Virgo, and it happens to be eclipse. And joining me today is Justin Crockett Elsie, a fellow astrologer friend. And welcome, Justin. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing good. Thank you, Liz, for having me on. I'm excited to talk about this lunar eclipses. That's actually one of my favorite. That's actually my favorite moon phase or,
Awesome.
or events or lunar eclipses. Yeah.
It's a pleasure to have you back on. And yes, I love the moon myself too, so I appreciate it. So, Justin is an archetypal and Jyotish astrologer, teacher, author, and seer. You can email him at justin.lz@gmail.com. I'm an astrologer, author, intuitive, and you can reach me through my website, alightpath.com. So, the Virgo full moon, um, like I said before, is an eclipse. So, we're at the second eclipse that we've had because we had the solar eclipse a couple weeks ago. So now we're moving into the lunar eclipse. And Virgo's mutable modality, which is about adaptability, transition, change. The ruling planet is Mercury. It's of the earth element, grounded and structured. The mantra is I analyze. Some keywords are logical, practical, analytical, and the full moon is a culmination time. Would you like to add anything to that, Justin?
Well, can I add just a little bit of mythology here, a little bit about um, about lunar eclipses, and I'd like to get your thoughts on it. So, as we've talked before, eclipses are the endings and beginnings of cycles. And if we look back in history, especially with the Babylonians and the Greeks and the Egyptians, anytime there were these eclipses, they portended, major events like changes of leaders of nations or death of leaders. And one of the interesting things about the lunar eclipse, because it's dark, right? It's where the moon sees its shadow. So there's an element in it which is about seeing the shadow side of self, or the dark part, something that you don't see because the earth is seeing its shadow. And the Egyptians, which were very, they were considered the magicians and the eccentric and the seers and mystics within the old world, because they were had such a big death cult, right? And they were really into that. Well, when it came to lunar eclipses, these were the times when they would do magic, or they would do a lot of ritual stuff around that dealt with um, change and wanting to see things happen. They wanted to come about. So I think it's really interesting that when we look at this lunar eclipse, as we're talking about this tonight, that how and where this shows up in your chart can show something, if you really take the time to look at it, show something that may be hidden in your life, where that 12 degrees Virgo is at and the 12 degrees Pisces is at. Where is that in your chart? And that's the point of the lunar eclipse. And so, I know the Sabian symbols gives us some insight. We'll talk about tonight. We'll talk about the nakshatras, which gives us some insight into it. But I just want to encourage the audience to think about where this is in your own personal chart, and where there is probably something that can be revealed, because that's I think the aspect of it, something that's revealed, that's hidden, right? The shadow, and something we can work on that shows up in life, whether it shows up in your career house, or your fourth house of home, or your sixth house of work and health. So this could bring any type of situation up in those areas. What do
Thank
you
you.
think?
I like that, and I think that that's great that you shared that. So, I have Virgo in the fourth house and Pisces in the 10th. So it's a fourth, 10th. So home, around home,
And
or
career.
right in career and my foundation, perhaps. So,
Right.
Okay, so again, this is a total lunar eclipse. It happened a few hours ago and at 12 degrees Virgo and 53 minutes. It's also called the blood moon. And it was you could view it in Northeast Asia, Northwest and North America, and Central and Pacific Ocean, Australia, and it set over North and South America. It occurred at 3:38 a.m. Pacific Standard Time today on March 3rd. Justin was telling me before we got on that he got up and observed for a short time. So, do you want to tell us about that at all?
Well, yeah, uh, I knew that if you got up before it, I know we got it at 3:38, but I knew if I got up at 3, you would have already seen it starting. And of course, it changes the moon to this blood dark red. And of course, that's what was sort of the way, the people in ancient times saw it is not necessarily a positive thing with the moon turning blood red, right? Um, but it is what it is. It's a lunar eclipse.
Well, and they're beautiful to observe because
Oh
I've
yeah.
observed several over my lifetime, so I always appreciate them. I did not get up. I forgot to set my alarm to wake me up, but that's okay. There'll be more. So Justin's gonna share about the nakshatras with us.
Yeah, so the lunar mansions, the portion of the sky that the sun and the moon are in, gives us some insight. And this is from the Jyotish or the Hindu Vedic astrology. So the sun, Surya, that's the name of sun in Sanskrit. The nakshatra that the lunar mansion it was in was it's called Shatapatisha, and it's the constellation of the 100 stars, and it's each nakshatra is divided into 4 parts, or what we call padas. The first one is always fire, the second pada is always earth, the third pada is always air, and the fourth pada is always water. Well, in this particular one, because it's in the fourth pada, the Navamsa for this one is Pisces. So Navamsa is that water sign that's kind of affecting this energy of the sun. So the sun is in this lunar mansion that deals with a Shakti power to heal and support. The ruling planet, of course, is Rahu, or the lunar north node, the demon's head. And the ruling deity here is Varuna. Now, Varuna was the god of cosmic and terrestrial waters, also the lord of Maya or illusions. So I think this was kind of interesting that we got the lord of illusions here. And of course, we're having a lunar eclipse that's showing us what is not an illusion, but the unveiling of something. The symbol, of course, is an empty circle. So there's sort of this, again, with the basis above, all pervasiveness and support for everything. The empty circle is sort of like the infinity. And if a person has a planet in this, let's say your sun or your moon or your Venus, Mercury, Mars, Jupiter. So let's say, for example, it makes a person, you have good imagination here and creativity, but there's also a need to sort of be alone at times. And it can be given to addictions. It is a water Navamsa, but it's also has the power to heal and support. So I think, a lot of times we see people have, let's say, their sun in this or the moon in this, tend to get into some career where there's a need to heal and compassion and to support. So that's what the sun's energy is coming into this. So that could bring up issues in this lunar eclipse with, let's say, something you need to heal in your life. Or it could bring up something that you haven't realized before, or some confusion about something, and all of a sudden now it comes up. And so it could also be a very good creative time to start a creative project, or the end of a creative project, or the aha moment in a creative project, or new ideas coming in about creativity. So, and then the moon, Chandra, is in a nakshatra which we call Purva Falguni, and it's in the second pada, which of course is Earth, and in this case, the Navamsa, or The Earth zodiac that's ruling that second one is Virgo in this case. So it has this Virgo analytical perfectionist thing, and of course that just again supports that Pisces, and that Virgo really supports this mansion or this lunar eclipse. So the moon is in a Navamsa here, which is enterprising, but it's a little bit carefree. Um, when a person has their moon in this specifically, or the sun, they can be a little bit of carefree when it comes to their creative stuff. Yeah, I'll get to it, and that's why we see the symbol here is a hammock. You put in you sleep in a hammock, and it's kind of like relaxing, and you just kind of carefree. You take life that way. But there's also this perfectionist aspect to this that can be, we always use the term analysis paralysis, right? And overanalyzing. And this particular nakshatra, the one prior was called the 100 stars or the 100 physicians. This is one is called the fruit of the tree, because this is about the Shakti power of to procreate. So when a person has their a major planet in this, they actually are good at creating stuff. But usually it deals with creating it with somebody else, because the ruling deity here is Bhaga, which is one of the Vedic solar deities, and he's the one of good fortune, marital bliss, and contracts and unions. And hence why this is a really good time with this lunar eclipse to, sign contracts or work on relationships of procreating. And so the basis above here is partner, and the base of below is partner. And another symbol, of course, is the legs of the bed. But it really relates to any procreating with any type of relationship, even a business relationship. And here we see the ruling planet is Venus. So again, there's a really good energy here around creativity. And so that's just a little bit of way this moon is. So let's say, for example, how this may play out for you. Let's say that the moon is in your 10th house of career in this with this lunar eclipse. It could bring up issues. Let's say with this lunar eclipse could bring up issues where you're really not getting along with people at work. You're not being able to be productive with people at work. Or let's say that it shows up in your 6th house, could also be, or let's say that shows up in your 4th house. It could be issues with relationships in the home. And then of course, if it comes up in your 5th house, it could be, or 4th house as well, it could be the time where you actually your partner becomes pregnant. Or so it's you got to think about this in context of where this shows up. And so because it is a lunar eclipse, it could bring up things that you haven't noticed before that are issues when it comes to relationships and procreating.
Thank you for sharing the nakshatras with us. I appreciate it, and I'm learning a little bit here and there. So,
Yeah, well,
yeah,
I'm actually going to be thinking about doing a talk soon about how Western astrologers can include these lunar mansions, and the Vedic lunar mansions. We know there are Western lunar mansions as well, but putting the nakshatras into your practice, it gives it just a lot more depth. So some favorable activities based on these two nakshatras would be, of course, any favorable activities would be marriage or sex or contracts, business dealings, resolving old disputes, and because of the Shattvashisha, also traveling and astrology, getting an astrology reading around this time, any type of water activities, therapy, yoga, rest, relaxation, or any artistic activities. And these are just a few things that one might want to do. Of course, I think we've talked about this before. I think we all have our own idiosyncrasies of what we want to do around eclipses. I actually do a little mantra work because keeping that kind of focus on what energies and the what energies this lunar eclipse brings in, and to give people some idea of a good a couple of mantras to do right around this period. Are any Bij mantras, especially with Lam, Om, Lam, which is the root chakra. Bij mantra is a good one to do for this time.
Thank you for that suggestion. I'll have to check that out. Thanks. So we're going to take a look at the Sabian symbols for this full moon lunar eclipse. The Sabian symbols came about with spiritualist medium Elsie Wheeler channeling them with Mark Edmund Jones. So there's one saying for each degree of the zodiac. So we're going to start out with the moon, and we do three, the degree before, the degree of, and the next degree. So it's kind of like leading up to the now and then what's next. So would you like to start us off, Justin?
So sure. So the Virgo 11 degrees, the key thing here is in her baby, a mother sees her deep longing for a son answered, and so the description is the spirit's answer to vital needs of whatever became individualized out of its infinite ocean of potentiality. So here we have the concept of imagination or imagineering. Of course, we've already had that in the nakshatras. I might point out is sort of a theme with this here.
And then Virgo 12, after the wedding, the groom snatches the veil away from his bride, penetrating and unveiling power of a trained mind. And the keyword is unveiling.
And then Virgo 13 degrees is a powerful statesman overcomes a state of political hysteria. And the keynote here is the focusing of the collective need for order and structural interdependence into a personage who incarnates the answer to this need. So, really, we're talking about um, willpower and charisma here, and mysterious power that comes from an openness to evolution.
Okay, and how would you sum the three of them up together?
Well, I think again, this is just informing us if we, and I know looking back that there's the whole thing within the chakras about relationship here, but also imagination with the sun. And I think this is really just a time for us to um, be able to see the truth. We have the unveiling there, which is the concept of the lunar eclipse, unveiling something that um, you haven't seen before, unveiling that the shadow self, and then of course imagineering and looking at the truth of something around this time. And we've basically got the charisma and willpower to accomplish what we want to around this time. What do you think?
Well, I agree, and I like what you said. It's like it's important to be imaginative, and with that imagination to be able to put something into place, and that it, like you said, the unveiling, and then um, the openness to evolve. I think it's like move forward. It's like to me that speaks with the eclipse because eclipses always are. I always see them as a lot of change happening around them.
Right, I agree.
And then the Sabian symbol for the sun, we're going to start with the degree leading up to Pisces 11, men traveling a narrow path seeking illumination. The capacity inherent in every individual to seek, at whatever cost, entrance to a transcendent the realm of reality. So walk on.
And then Pisces 12 is in the sanctuary of an occult brotherhood. Newly initiated members are being examined and their character tested. The keynote here is the ever reported challenge presented to the individual by the group, in which they have claimed acceptance, and the challenge is to prove themselves and their ability to assume responsibility effectively. So we have here a qualification.
And then Pisces 13, an ancient sword used in many battles is displayed in a museum. And the keynote is through the effectual use of will, man can become a symbol of courage for all those who follow. So the keyword is willpower. So, how would you sum these ones up?
Well, I think again, these speak to me more about intention and goals. You know, we're trying to accomplish something, be qualified for something, and work with something. And I think part of this is I honestly think that these three Sabian symbols speak to some level of life purpose, and getting help from guides on the other side. And that, you know, again, we have the thing about willpower and charisma. But I think that it's a time where we should, with this lunar eclipse, focus on our purpose here, and that's what I feel.
I would agree, and it's like, don't give up, keep going, and it might take a little bit of work, but you're almost there.
Right.
Here's a chart for Seattle. The ascendant's at 4 degrees Capricorn, and we have Saturn in Aries. It's that chart ruler's planet. The midheaven is 5 degrees Scorpio, and Pluto in Aquarius or Mars in Pisces, depending on if you use traditional or modern rulers. And again, the sun's at 12 degrees Pisces and the moon's at 12 degrees Virgo. I forgot to change that last one. Sorry about that. And here we have the chart just showing the opposition of that sun and moon. And with the moon is the south node, and the sun, we have the north node and Pallas Athena. And we have a few aspects here. We have the moon is opposite the north node, sun, and Pallas Athena, and trine Jupiter. I forgot to reload the slides when I made the corrections.
Yeah.
Oh well.
Yeah.
Would you like to speak to any of these aspects, Justin?
Well, I think you know, the point of the sun and the north node trining Jupiter, just from an archetypal concept there, because we know Jupiter is a planet of good fortune and ambition and success. And I think that, um, again, this kind of speaks to the nakshatras we're talking about, but also the Sabian symbols. I think Jupiter plays a role here in that, um, that we giving us that willpower, that charisma, the good fortune. That if we pay attention to what this, where this lunar eclipse is showing up in our astrology chart, in our natal chart, that Jupiter's there to give us some support. It's an easy flow of emotions and charisma and willpower.
Thank you. And then this is a south node eclipse, so we may be looking at things from our past to review and see what we want to release or keep or heal.
Or things that are underneath the blankets or the horizon, right? Because it's a south node one, right? So it's maybe stuff that's subjective versus objective.
Thank you. And then we have a minor grand trine with Chiron and Eris, sextile to Vesta and Hygeia. Um, what does that combination to you kind of signify, or what does it make you think of, Justin?
Well, you know, we've had, you and I've done this show on this before about the relationship between Chiron and Hygeia, because they conjunct they come together every 7 years. So there's a 7 year cycle where they meet up. Of course, Hygeia moves faster than Chiron, but I think the fact that they are sextiling, it's positive in a way that it's sextiles this creative um, ener- energy. So I think that, again, this relates to, you could look at it in one way, that there's a creative energy towards um, healing. And because Hygeia is in Gemini and Chiron is in Aries, this would be a particular time where there could be any healing when it comes to communications and how we have communicated to somebody about something. And so I think about that. That's what kind of jumps out to me here.
Yes, I think it's like, maybe healing some old wounds or healing something that felt wounding or that and so you have this opportunity to work on it now, so
Yeah, I think this is a great lunar eclipse too. Even if that lunar eclipse doesn't show up in let's say the seventh house, it could show up in the fourth house or the fifth house or the 11th house. All those are houses of relationship, and bring up stuff where we could, uh, based back on again on the nakshatras, the relationship thing about contracts and unions, and create and being productive, that we could improve our relationships or see some deeper things in relationship we haven't seen before, or understand maybe the what maybe the issue is in a relationship ego wise, with the shadow, portion, and be able to attack that and move forward.
I like that. Thank you. We're gonna jump now to the lunar phase family or gestation cycle. It uses the 4 lunar phases. Um, Pessin came up with this and using each phase as a 9-month period of time, so it takes 3 years to complete the lunar phase family, and we're at the full phase, right in the middle, but I'm gonna back up to when it began. The new phase began on September 2nd, 2024 at 11 degrees Virgo. So if you can, go back and see or remember what you were doing around that period might give you some insight into what's happening now or how far have you gone with that project or that idea in your life. The first quarter is June 2nd of 2025 at 12 degrees Virgo, and we're at the full phase at 12 degrees Virgo. And then the third quarter phase will be November 30th, 2026 at 9 degrees Virgo. Um, did you want to add anything, Justin?
No, no, I think it's great.
And then the yearly lunar phase, the new moon began, it was on August 23rd of 25 at 0 degrees Virgo, and then now we're at the full phase of 12 degrees Virgo. So this is another cycle that you can use to look back. Okay, what was going on in August? Um, I know for me, I had a lot of family stuff going on, and Virgo is in my fourth house, so that's kind of like the family home or the foundation. So, and things are progressing along. So,
Right,
do you
right,
remember
absolutely.
anything that was going on in your life around that time, or
No, I'd have to go back and look at that.
that's fine. Um, Justin and I both are consulting astrologers. We do in-person and Zoom consultations. We have newsletters and YouTube channels, so we always appreciate you giving us a like, subscribing, or contacting us for any information and how we could be of help to you. And Justin, I'll let you tell about your slide.
Well, basically, just a kind of a repeat of what you just said. You know, a good way to get a hold of me is through my email, and check out my YouTube channel at Astrological Yogi.
Okay, and then Justin has the new moon outlook on his YouTube channel at Astrological Yogi on YouTube. So come join us there where we talk about the new moon each month. Anything else I missed?
Nope, you got it.
And I have archives, many shows for you to go and look, and a new show 1 to 3 a week. And Justin's on a few of those. So we look forward to having you come back and joining us soon. I want to thank our sponsor, Astro Peregrine Software, an astrology software for Mac and Windows. And you can find out more information at astroperegrine.com. And Justin, thank you for joining me today. Any last words?
No, not really. I think everything I said I covered in the show, but I just again would encourage people to, look at where 12 degrees Pisces and 12 degrees Virgo is in their Western, uh, natal chart, and and how where this lunar eclipse is showing up for them, and maybe bringing some insight into something that they weren't aware of before.
I remember something that you were going to share with us about where Mars was on the solar eclipse and where Mars is on the
Yes,
eclipse.
yes, yes,
Please
yes, yes.
share.
Thank you for reminding me. Oh gosh, yes. So Mars is really important this month because just before we got into March here, Mars was right on the degree of the solar eclipse, which was right before we got into the beginning of the month here, right? We had that solar eclipse in Aquarius, 28 degrees Aquarius, and Mars hit it. And so the concept here is when Mars comes behind an eclipse, eclipse is about a change. It's like, you know, end of a cycle, beginning of a cycle is one way you could look at an eclipse. Well, Mars then comes behind it. If Mars does that, then Mars tends to trigger stuff. So, there could be, let's say, for example, um, a change, something happens or something new happens with the eclipse, and then action doesn't happen actually, maybe, or something doesn't actually happen until Mars triggers it and goes over that degree. Well, it just so happens Mars is also going to go over to the degree of the lunar eclipse because Mars is right in that area, last degrees of Aquarius and the beginning degrees of Pisces. So it is right behind each of these eclipses. It was behind the solar eclipse at the 28 degrees Aquarius. It already hit that. And now it's into Pisces. And on March 17th, Mars will meet up with the moon and come together at that 12 degrees Pisces right around the 17th of March. So, whatever happens this week with the lunar mansion in your chart, let's say, you decided to move and this lunar mansion is showing right up in your fourth house. You may not actually take action though until the 17th, or maybe you find a new place to live on the 17th. That's just an example of where Mars comes behind an eclipse and then triggers something. So I think it's really important to watch for all of us, um, where the lunar eclipse happens for us, that 12 degrees Pisces, 12 degrees Virgo, and then watch what happens on March 17th. So if you've decided to make some change this week, you can materialize it or do something of positive action on the 17th to bring it into concrete existence or whatever you want to do with that.
Thank you for that insight. I thought that it was really important that you share that, and I just remembered before we were gonna sign off. Well, I wanna thank our audience for joining us today. Those that come back and watch at a later date, I wanna thank you, Justin, for joining me. It's always a pleasure having you on, and, we're gonna say goodbye for now, and we'll see you next time. Thanks.